Hi, and welcome to TalkRx with Dr. Neha. This week, I have been getting questions about money. So, while I am not a professor of money, although today I look like I could be a professor of something, I do know that communication around the subject of money can really be awkward sometimes and get a little bit crazy. I have to tell you a little side note before we start this. As I was getting ready and I was putting on this shirt, it reminded me of one of my favorite professors in medical school, Dr. Charles Paganelli. He used to come in every day with this like perfect bow tie, and I'm missing him right now. So I'm not a professor of money, but we're going to talk about communication around money. Let's get started. So I began to think about in my life as well, how money can be this source of stress and a lot of exploding and shutting down and people not feeling valued. So the first thing I want you to remember about communication around money is, first of all, that money is not money. It's an exchange of value. Someone is providing you with a product, a service, something of value to you, and you're saying, for this, I'll give you this green stuff, or whatever color it is in your country. So whatever that exchange is that happens, it's about an exchange of value. So a lot of times the problem comes in when it's about valuing myself. So my services, what value do I want to put on them? If I put this value on it, will somebody else tell me that it's not enough or I'm not that valuable? So money can bring up fear inside yourself, especially if what you're trading is a service or a good that you've created. And it can bring up a lot of emotions around times when you didn't feel valued. So if the exchange of money or the communication around money has to do with you and a service you provide, make sure that you're pretty clear and solid about the value of that and how you will feel valued. So the most recent one that happened for me is in exchange with a videographer. So I did some work, video work, and got it shot. And up front, I tend to ask, how much will this cost? Can you please tell me, so that we've agreed upon it ahead of time? So we agreed on a number ahead of time. And then in our exchanges, I noticed that he was writing things like, I'm working really hard on your project. The project's taking a little bit longer than I expected. And so I wrote him back and I said, thank you so much. Like, I appreciate you, right? Thank you for your work. But I'm not a videographer, right? I'm a doctor. I'm a communication expert. I know my field, but I don't know his. So when we ended up connecting again, there was a very awkward and strange exchange between us, because he wrote me an email saying that I didn't appreciate him and I didn't know what it took to do the job he did. By the way, I don't, so he's right in that regard. And he also, kind of got upset and was writing, we just need to finish this. And so I got really curious and I asked if we could pick up the phone and actually have a conversation with one another. At that point, you might find that people, if they feel awkward, they might say things like this. Oh, don't, give me those fancy communication tools. Don't pull psychology on me. Don't, try to trick me, whatever it is. Well, it's not actually that somebody's trying to trick you. It's actually that when you have a conversation now, you're actually in real time with someone. They aren't just sending you texts or well-formulated emails. You're actually in this exchange, which can feel uncomfortable for them. Well, you'll be happy to know that when we had our discussion, what came out of it was, I said to him, he said, you should have known that this was going to cost more and take longer, because I told you I was working really hard on your project and that it had taken a little bit longer than I thought. And what I know is, in my business, oftentimes I quote something and it does take me a little bit longer than what I thought, but I use that information in my next round of quoting to quote higher than I did the last time. But I don't usually go back and change the quote that I've already given. That's just my practice. But what I said to him is, what I want is for you to feel fairly paid, and I'd like to have a discussion around what that is. We didn't have to go back and forth in all these emails and say all these things to each other. All we needed to do was have a direct conversation. And I said, all I would have needed to know is, hey, Neha, this is how much I quoted you. It's taking me this much longer to do it. Would you be willing to pay me this much more money? That would have been a direct conversation. And it was so adorable because what he said was, oh, I guess I'm not really being very direct. I thought you should have gotten it when I said that, and you should have just offered me more money. Well, what I can tell you is I don't know the world of videography, so I wouldn't even attempt to do that because I don't even have a frame of reference. So make sure if the discussion you're having around money has to do with you and your services or somebody else's services and things are starting to get a little strange or awkward, just call it out. Pick up the phone and say, hey, I noticed you said this in a text or this in an email. I noticed we agreed on this. Has something changed? And trust yourself that you can handle the conversation. If you're an open and a good listener, you'll be able to come to a happy ground where you both feel valued. And if you plan to use this person in the future for this skill set, or you plan to have this customer that you're interfacing with in the future, make sure that you take that extra step to keep the relationship solid. So I hope some of these tips were helpful for you around money, whether you're the one putting a dollar value on what you provide to other people, or whether you're in an exchange with somebody else who's providing a service to you. Don't let money ruin your relationships. So thanks everybody for listening, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on and your experiences of awkward money scenarios, and I'd be happy to help you. So drop me a tweet at #AskDrNeha, AskDoctorNeha, or go to the comments and leave me your question. I'm really curious about what you're wondering about regarding money.